Over in Japan, I have been seeing Flareon being paired alongside Greninja EX, and this combo kind of makes sense. We earlier on the channel explored Flareon plus Hydreigon, and so it's a pretty similar concept here, where you want to use the Flareon to charge up the Greninja's second attack and get it onto the field. But also, I do feel like Flareon covers for Greninja's weaknesses slightly better, like giving you an extremely offensive attack in Carnelian, while also being a decent early game play. This also means that you get to play Eevee EX, who acts as a Tera enabler for your Hoothoot and Noctowl line very early on, without having to evolve into the Greninja to get all the Noctowl stuff in play. And Greninja himself is also an extremely powerful payoff. You know, it can search your deck for a card every turn, or it can do spread damage, which will only get better in the post-rotation format when Manaphy rotates out. We have a bunch of other stuff facilitating some of your combos. So you have, 2 copies of Crispin in here, which are really good for getting your energy into play, the Sparkling Crystal, and yeah, I mean, the deck is cool. And if you guys enjoy the gameplay, make sure to like, comment down below, and subscribe, and I will see you guys. Alrighty, getting started with the first match here, we have what seems to be a Palkia deck, which is honestly not like the matchup I want to see, because both the Greninja the Greninja's gonna have a hard time one-shotting everything in the deck. Even with the help of the black belt, I can't one-shot Chien-Pao. And then the Eevee, Flareon's kind of weak to that stuff, so it's going to be really easy for the opponent to get knockouts here. On top of that, I have an awful start. There's no Fan Rotom, which is really the card you need to be hitting turn 1 in almost every game, just because it gives you, your full field of setup. The only thing that I'm kind of grateful for currently is that I am sitting on a Hoothoot and an Eevee EX, so if I get an Ultra Ball or a Noctowl, there is a chance I can Jewel Seeker my way out of this situation. But as my opponent has to go for a little Minion off of this and grab another Arena, I think I might be in the fine here. They're just going to go ahead and Nest Ball a single Frigivax out. So at least this gives me an out to, at least stalling them for a turn, as I can use no, that doesn't work, because I am missing, I'm missing a way to attack currently, unless if I pull a Flareon off the top. But other than that, this is a rough situation. But we do get the Budew, which is okay. And I'm a little glad I attached that energy to my Hoothoot, because, it allows me to retreat here. I could still just use Crispin to attach the energy there, but for now, I feel a little bit safe. This 10 damage could come in play later, just because it would allow Greninja to be able to knock it out with Barrage, though I don't see myself utilizing that as much in this matchup because there's a Manaphy in play, and it's very unlikely I'll be able to take down the Manaphy. I really won't be chasing it, because I don't think their board state is super vulnerable to the point that I'd want to gut it. But I'm actually staying pretty close to an out here. As all my Eevee needs is, either to evolve or to get one more energy on it, so I'm able to boss up and kill the Frigivax here. And, oh well, would you like that? It's Tera Orb Blue. We're gonna go ahead and get Flareon. But the only thing that sucks now is there's nowhere for me to really put my energies onto. I could attach it to the Fezandipiti, but because there's a Manaphy in play, I'm really decentivized from actually charging it up fully. I'm still going to go ahead and attach one energy onto it so I can retreat with it later, but, it's a consideration. And the only reason why I'm choosing to put one energy on the Fezandipiti as opposed to the Hoothoot/Noctowl is if I end up getting a Turo, and I have the energy of the Noctowl, I don't want to lose that energy. So I figured, if they're going to boss something up, they can boss up either the Noctowl or the Fez. One is probably for knockout, the other is for stalling. And so the Turo would be better used onto the Noctowl so I can reset it. My opponent, unfortunately, is also going to go ahead and actually just finally manually attach and be able to knock out my 2 Pokemon on the bench, which is kind of another reason why I wanted to put the energy on the Fezandipiti instead, because there was a big chance that they were just able to knock me out. And then, there's the Turo just coming up right on cue. But, we're still not in a great spot here. I do draw the Sparkling Crystal and the Water Energy, and that's, it's kind of cool, but I really don't have a whole lot of setup going on. And I have the energy ramp all, down and set up right now with my Flareon on the active, so it's I really did need that. I can still boss up another Frigivax, though, and spare myself just another turn. It is a bit unlucky that we did just lose our Hoothoot, just to get a Noctowl, but I really need to set, like, I really felt the pressure to set up another attacker here, because at any point that, like, Palkia comes down, I can't really stop that. I can just attack it, which is, you know, kind of nice, it's an option, but I figured that Palkia was going to be the biggest roadblock in this entire match, if they do run it, which, you know, at this point, is kind of highly suspect. You don't typically run Palkia in the Baxcalibur decks, but, I mean, you could. I've definitely seen it before. But they're going to go ahead and put that on Chien-Pao, and I'm kind of hoping that, like, they toss it into the active, because it'd be so nice, but no, they're just going to go ahead and sacrifice the Manaphy, which, you know, is one of the things I talked about earlier, is like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this out. But yeah, I am sitting on my second copy of Boss's Orders right now, so I'm thinking about just taking out the Chien-Pao and then running through the rest of the game here. Hopefully that, like, the 2 cards I would draw off the prizes right here would be good. Also put the Sparkling Crystal onto the Froakie. I'm not entirely sure if this is the correct play, and that'll come up a little bit later, but for now I'm just going to gloss over the fact. But I think the big reason why I'm like, maybe you shouldn't have done that, is only because, just like, I'm not using Mirage really. Like, by the time I kill this Manaphy, there's really not going to be a lot for me to kill. And if my opponent decides to put down, like, a 1-prizer I can snipe with Greninja, then they are probably doing something wrong to begin with. So I just don't see myself getting a lot of value out of the Sparkling Crystal on the Greninja. The only possible place I can see is, like, if I somehow lose my energy, but, you know, we're neither here nor there. I'm also going to go ahead and drop the Rotom and put my Area 0 down, so this could possibly allow me to bump a Noctowl later if they clear my stadium, which I think is okay, but it would also allow me to attack here if I drew into energy. Would you look at that? You know, the one thing that we're not for sure in this game is energy starved, as we're able to just get another knockout in there. And we get the Noctowl, which is going to give me a lot of options here in order to try and finish out the game. That said, my worst nightmare is kind of in right now, which is the Palkia, the one problem I could not stop earlier. And, you know, this is where I'm regretting putting the Sparkling Crystal onto the Greninja instead, because if I had put it onto the Flareon, then all I would need is 1 energy here in order to, like, relaunch my attack after retreating. So it's probably something I should have considered, but also this is such a weird board state that, you know, you wouldn't normally get to, so I think I'm going to forgive myself a little bit for the suboptimal Sparkling Crystal placement, when I think relatively everything else has been good. I'll set the duo double take when my opponent discards 3 energies out of their fucking hand. They even, like, draw anything off the Chien-Pao, it's just, they have those. Okay, they put down another Palkia, and it does seem like they were unable to get the VSTAR here, as they're forced to soft retreat. I'm not entirely sure why they go to the super frail Greninja instead of just staying the active, but, you know, I'm definitely not going to complain, as I'm just going to go ahead and Noctowl and grab the Rare Candy, and end this game very quickly by going to Greninja here and attacking with my Shinobi Blade. Yeah, definitely very scuffed board state, but that's where you gotta focus down on the priorities and your opponent's win con. I kind of figured if they set up Baxcalibur, I'd be really cooked for the majority of the game, because they could just constantly charge up attackers. That'd probably, you know, 1 for 2 on my Flareon, and that just sounds not fun. Anyways, here's a bunch of other games that we got going on here. I will say, I was actually very disappointed with the Flareon this deck. In the Hydreigon deck, it felt way more necessary, way more needed, because Hydreigon has such a steep cost. But, you know, I think people really underestimate, like, how good Greninja's first attack is, and how easy you can chain things together. Because if you get 1 Shinobi Blade off, that usually follows up into you being able to combo for the rest of the game, as long as they don't Iono you. Which, you know, is always a possibility, yeah. But, it's just like, what are they gonna do to me? I go ahead and Tera Orb for an Eevee EX here. That way my Noctowl can be active. I could have possibly saved it and been like, oh, what if I got a Rare Candy or something like that? But I don't have a lot of, like, supportive ways to search out the Rare Candy, so I decided to just take the focus on the Eevee EX, to activate my Tera enablers, and get the Greninja going. There is a chance that, like, you should be playing this version with, like, Tropicos, or, like, even a Cornerstone, which I have actually seen my friends play, as a decklist I've been meaning to get to for a while. But this deck plays very similarly to that, and I just, like, you know, as someone who's been gassing up Greninja this entire time as this really good, like, secret deck that nobody really knows about, You know, I sure did downplay the ability to just drop Crispin and Sparkling Crystal on the opponent and start launching Barrages. Like, it's kind of unfair how I'm able to just clear off the opponent's entire side of the field before they even get to play the game. And that's nothing that they're doing on their fault. I mean, besides all playing a Manaphy, because we still have Manaphy in the game. But it's just like, like, the combo potential between the Noctowls and the Greninjas is so crazy. I even go ahead and top deck a Rare Candy here, which is definitely going to save me on the possible outs. I'm still looking to figure out like how I want to piece this combo, or if I'm even going to be able to get the attack off this turn, which I should be able to very easily. The Tera Orb will grab me the Greninja, obviously, the Crispin will grab me 2 energies I need, and then I would just have to Noctowl for my other 2 tools after this in order to get the attack. That said, using the first attack is like somewhat respectable, but it's really, you know, in this situation, it's kind of slow, especially when I could take a more aggressive option and just essentially stuff the opponent out. Like, like when I use Barrage and take out both these Dinos here, they just have no chance of coming back into the game. And it will require, like, a lot of upkeep to keep getting the Greninja back up. But even if this, like, even if I can't Barrage next turn, I will always have the Sparkling Crystal my Pokemon currently in order to just Shinobi Blade anyways. So, you know, there's no situation where I'm, like, super energy starved and completely bricked out of the game. And I can just spend the time slowly charging up the Flareon if I want to, because the Flareon will give me another out for heading into this higher prize Pokemon, or higher HP Pokemon. That said, my opponent will likely never get those out. But if they did manage to get the Pidgeot out, then using the what's it called? Using Cornelia and Flareon can be a good way to shut them out. They do have some extra cards, and I really need to get in their hands, so I'm just gonna go ahead and Iono down my own hand because I really did need all those energies in my hand, and I'm just gonna go ahead and Nest Ball. Grab even more stuff, grab the Fezandipiti, because they do manage to take a knockout against me, then that's like my way of retaliating against the opponent. And they're still in a really bad spot here. Even if they attach another double turbo energy to the Regigigas in the back, they can't do anything about it, which is good. And I'm just gonna go ahead and Shinobi Blade and grab a Noctowl, because I don't necessarily know what else I'm gonna need for the following turns, but Noctowl can just grab me 2 combo pieces and get me started. And so having 1 energy in the Sparkling Crystal in here is really powerful, because it'll allow me to be able to use Barrage next turn without even having to attach. Unfortunately, my opponent is going to Iono my hand down, but I still have quite a lot to work off of. With just the energy alone, the Barrage will allow me to shut down even more of my opponent's board state. That's why they are going to drop a Greninja on me, or drop the Devolution on me, but because of my Eevee EX on the back line, like, I am completely safe. And this honestly just gave me the fuel to win the game this turn, which is, you know, a little stupid to think about. I don't even remember why I'm grabbing the Tera Orb. I think I'm just, like, completely blanking here. But, you know, I realized very quickly, it's like, oh wait, I just win the game if I boss up the Rotom and then knock it out. So, oops, you know, little dummy moment right here, but it's fine. I'm just gonna go ahead and grab the boss's orders, take another random card, and then go ahead and do super effective damage to the Rotom, because I am a fighting type, and then take a knockout in the Duskull, because why not? Scored myself another 3 prizes right here. I think this really just shows the power of, like, how good Crispin is. With these discarding energy attackers, because Crispin of the Pikachu is also, like, extremely good, and we've seen, like, the Terra Box decks in JP really popping off because of that as well. Like, they're just able to be like, oh, I could just go for this entire crazy setup and get away with it, all because you have Crispin and Teal Mass to, you know, supplement all that. Here we have the Flareon, but, like, sometimes it's just not even needed, and Greninja can just carry you through a couple games. I decided to go for a 1-1-1 pick here on the Hoothoot Eevee and the Noctowl, and the reason for that is that I don't want to overcommit to the Hoothoots when I don't have a Tera Pokemon in play. And one of my ways of getting a Tera Pokemon could be to, you know, evolve my Eevee into a Flareon, which, you know, is very, very doable, and would net me some progress here. My opponent is going to go ahead and, you know, get their full Precious Trolley loop here, so it is likely that I'm going to die. But they don't drop the what's it called? The Radiant Sneasler, so they are actually going to be able to score a complete, like, one-hit knockout this turn. it's basically all but guaranteed because of the Monkey Dory eventually. But I mean, I still have doubts here, as I'm still looking for a way to activate my stuff, and hitting the Greninja off the top was just utterly perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead and see what else I can pull off here. There's a big chance I can just even attack with the Greninja this turn, if I wanted to, right? But I'm going to go ahead and go for a slightly different route instead, because I want to establish myself a little bit better for the future. So I believe I'm going to take the chance to grab my Buddy Poffin, and then also grab my supporter for the next turn. The Buddy Poffin is going to allow me to reload my bench with Hootoots, which will then be used for Noctowls down the line. And I'm actually going to go ahead and save my Rotom here. Losing energy here does kind of suck, but I figured it was a fine enough consequence, and this will allow me to take out the bench run, leave a 1 prize or the active, and then get moving. And my opponent doesn't have a way of putting any damage on them this turn, so my Rotom is going to remain safe, and they put the Sneasler down, perhaps realizing their mistake. The only thing that kind of sucks is letting them have the Ringaroo in the active, because the Ringaroo is gonna, what's it called? I'm blinking. The Ringaroo is always going to be able to grab them 2 cards, so it's just studying out the deck more, even if the tools aren't actively doing a whole lot against them. And then, I'm going to go ahead and just grab Fezandipiti here. It doesn't activate, even though I always click on Fez, because I'm hoping, like, at some point it's like, oh, it'll do something funny. But it never does. I'm always a little bit sad. Also, like, get rid of the Sparkling Crystal here, and I think I was just being super greedy with this Iono. I think I'm just like, oh, I want to, like, offensively pressure the opponent this turn and try to take even more prizes while I don't have a lot of scent going for me on my back end, which I kind of respect the hustle, but I'm not exactly sure. I think later in this game, actually, losing the Sparkling Crystal kind of bites me in the ass. Just a little bit. Not enough to the point that it, like, loses me the match or anything, but I do remember being slightly annoyed by my choice here. I think it was also partially because I don't use this, I don't really use this Iono well or at all, for example. As I'm choosing to ground with Crispin because in my head I'm like, oh, well, Crispin is probably actually going to be pretty good here. I go ahead and take out the Trap Ghost with the Body Mochi on it, just because I don't want to get hit by some super high damage threshold and then have, like, a revived Petra come back in later and kill me. So I just figured, like, removing one of my opponent's tools in ways of amplifying their damage is pretty good. And they're just done with it. Like, I'm too far ahead. Even if they had damaged me that turn, they'd be super far behind and wouldn't be able to come back. And that's kind of one of the biggest strengths of Greninja currently. I talk about this every time I play this card, but, like, its typing is so good right now. Especially as people are playing, like, Miraidon and cloth decks, so you have a lot of momentum into the types of targets you'd be hitting. Anyways, I see a Relicanth here, and if this was an average Joe player, they'd be like, oh, where's this deck? But I know it's Feraligatr, and a Feraligatr honestly kind of scares me because I have so much trash on the field that could just be like big bite fodder. But I think there's like one positive thing, and I don't think most people know how to operate this deck. And 2, I have a natural out with the Fan Rotom. If they put a Luxurious Cape on the Mimikyu, that's when it could become a problem, or a Bravery Charmer, whatever, tool card they have in the deck. But if they don't do that, then, there's nothing that they can do here. They're also playing a neat version with the Dunsparce. I don't think this is a version I've personally seen yet, but it can kind of make sense because it gives you a card draw option, and it gives you hella value out of your Artisan as something you can permanently do. I just don't like it because I don't think you're gonna have opportunistically that much bench space available to you. So it is what it is. I'm gonna go ahead and take the opportunity to not lose the big bite as soon as I can. By trying to slow down their setup as much as possible. Unfortunately, I can't really kill the Dunsparce here, which would likely be the best thing that I could do, because if I'm able to knock out the Dunsparce, I might be able to get their whole draw from underneath them, but I don't hit super effective on the bench. So simply knocking out the Totodile and the Crocodile will have to do, unfortunately. There's also a part of me that considered perhaps knocking out the Relicanth was fine, because knocking out the Relicanth would turn away their ability to use Big Bite. That said, I figured, like, if they have basic Pokemon search, getting the Relicanth out is probably not that bad. or not that much of a tall task for them to do. So I'm just like, whatever, it's fine. As they are gonna go ahead and redo Team Evo and try this one more time. But I am saying on another Crispin in my hand, which is absurd. I'm thinking about whether or not I even need to pull the trigger on this Noctowl here. And generally, you want to be able to save these as much as possible. Like, these are hard to reload later into the game, so I'm thinking like, I might need to save it for later. And I think I'm kind of glad I do, because with how many energies I'm expelling out of my deck, I might need to have the Super Rod later, or I guess I used all my Crispins, but I'd probably have the Super Rod later if I wanted Barrage again. But my opponent's just fucking out of here. They're done with it. They're so far behind. And, I get it. That's such a good vibe, is that we just need to get out of here. Anyways, in case you're noticing a lot of these matches coming down to Greninja being broken, I mean, it kind of is. I've been saying this for literal months. I've been saying this like since before I started redoing like daily uploads. The card is broken, but alas, I have no Tera Pokemon in my hand, and I don't think this hand is. I don't think there's a good way for me to like bank on getting a Tera Pokemon immediately, which is why I end up choosing to go for double Hoothoot and an Eevee, because I'm likely to play the Iono next turn, and by playing the Iono, I'm going to have a high chance of, hitting a Noctowl or hitting a Flareon or something. I don't want to grab a Noctowl and then not be able to use it, and then have to Iono it to the bottom of my deck, so I'm just trying to increase the odds as much as possible here. I would also kind of like to put the Fezandipiti down. I don't remember if there's a matchup where my opponent chooses to go second or chooses to go first, but if they're choosing to go second, I usually get a little bit wary that it might be one of those offensive decks like Miraidon or Gouging Fire, for example, that can attack you turn one. So that's kind of where we're at. I am thankful my opponent decides to rip the Forest Sealstone immediately, and then it's also going to go ahead and Rotom draw 3, because I'm about to Iono that hand away. And in the grand scheme of things, it isn't going to change much, but, I go ahead and dump all the energies onto my Eevee here, which I'm not entirely sure is the most correct play. And I also go ahead and go for the Itchy Pollen. And I'm also trying to figure out why I'm doing this. I think I'm just, not respecting my opponent whatsoever, and they have a very slow deck. So I think right now I'd really like to pivot over to attacking with the Greninja, despite putting all the energies on my Flareon. Because in my head, when I was looking at that play right there, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go ahead, Ultra Ball for a Noctowl, grab a Sparkling Crystal, and try to attack right there. But I kind of like my ability to, at least try to future plan here, and go for the Greninja instead. Because if I hit Greninja on this Wayless and the Dino, I'm basically just going to be able to instantly win the game. And so I think going for the more patient route there and just eye-blocking them is good. That said, they do have a second Team Evo, and they do choose to evolve the Wayless into Iron Dragon, so I'm not gonna be able to completely gut out their support from underneath them, but I am able to get pretty far. We are going to be looking for the Crispin and the Rare Candy here, which is essentially kind of all that we need to really get going here. I can also use this Ultra Ball as well to search out another Noctowl. In which case, I'll probably be doing that, grabbing Sparkling Crystal and then a supporter for next turn. Likely, the best thing I could grab is maybe just another Crispin, or just, an Iono or something. But, overall, I'm just looking to see, what we can do here. Sparkling Crystal seems good, and I believe the other card I grab is Boss's Orders. Yeah. So the Boss's Orders is going to allow me to just straight up take a knockout against the Rotom, and just scan this entire game. I'm choosing to knock out the Fez and the Pidgey here, because letting them have a Pidgeot means that's one Pokemon that's really hard for me to get past, and I really don't have to kill the other Dino on the bench. The Dino is essentially in the same status as, the opponent's Hydreigon and the active, so I'm just really not that worried about it. And so if they don't play an Iono against me, I'm just going to be able to boss and kill the Rotom here. But yeah, I mean, this is Greninja Crispin featuring a Flareon that did something occasionally. I think you might be able to get more value out of it if you're playing against a Lara Chalanol, which is a popular deck. I just could not queue that deck. I think people think the deck is still broken, or it still is, because at the time I was recording most of these matches, it was before the live patch happened today. So I don't know if they actually fix all those bugs, but it is what it is. But I mean, Greninja's broken. I have nothing else to say.